Good evening, folks, and thanks very much for the opportunity to join you this evening. I obviously did have the opportunity to join you later if I wanted to, but I do like to dial in at the first, so I can see what's happening in each of the counties that I've been speaking at as well. And so nice to be able to hear what's happening in Lambton County. I'm absolutely delighted to join you this evening. Certainly lots of people on the Zoom meeting that I names I recognize and people that I know. It's great to be here. I do want to acknowledge right now that Lambton County is situated in the traditional territories of the Anishinaabe people and is steeped in rich Indigenous history and is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people today. I come from Wellington County, and so that's where I'm joining you today. Mississaugas are the First Credit, and the Six Nations are the traditional territories in this area. I want to congratulate Lambton Federation of Agriculture on 80 years. What a milestone. And just in the last hour and a half, while I've been listening, I'm amazed, I'm pleased, I'm very delighted about the innovation and the good stuff that Lambton Federation of Agriculture is undertaking. The video that we watched, great stuff. The TIM cards for first responders, supporting the Lambton's Children Museum as a collective group around London with an agricultural focus on one of the displays. Wonderful stuff. You've accomplished a lot. I even noted the archives that you're getting underway as a result of, or with respect to the 80th anniversary. I'm a history geek, so it's good to carry on that history and protect it. As you might expect, it's been a whirlwind time for me and my family since February of 2018, when I was appointed to the Senate of Canada. I liken it to drinking from a fire hose. So much to learn and to sort out and deal with and understand. It's certainly been a learning experience. The learning curve has been steep, and it continues to be. But it's a place I'm thoroughly enjoying and want to be for the next number of years. I know the Senate is a bit of an unknown for many Canadians, and so when I put my name forward to become a senator, it was somewhat of an unknown for me as well. Did I ever think I'd be here? Absolutely not. But into the Senate, I made it a goal to make sure that whenever I had the opportunity, I would share with individuals that I spoke to about how my role in the Senate of Canada and how it works and what's happening, what I've been doing to support agriculture and rural communities across Ontario and across Canada. I do represent Ontario, but obviously in the Senate of Canada, I represent Canadians across the country as well. I'll take questions, probably best to leave them till the end, but I'm happy to answer questions. And I know that this is dragging on, so I'll just carry on. So how did this Senate thing happen? After working for the provincial government for 15 years, mostly with OMAFRA, a short stint with the Ministry of Energy, Science and Technology, and I moved on to 4-H Ontario, as some of you know. I had a short stint with the Ontario soybean growers, thanks to Kevin Marriott and others. And then I happily accepted my dream job of executive director of the Centre for Rural Leadership, which morphed into the CEO role of the Rural Ontario Institute. Leadership is really important to me. Agriculture and rural leadership is very important to me. During the summer of 2016, our son Taylor saw that there was a call for Senate applications for Ontario, and he suggested one night that I should apply. So I looked into it and give it some consideration. And after a couple of days, I did apply. And so it was a 6-page application, 3 reference letters that I had to complete. And after a long vetting process, I was sworn in. It was announced on Flag Day of 2018, February the 15th, and I was sworn into the Senate of Canada on February 27th, 2018, into the old Senate chamber, which you see here. We've since moved out of here as Centre Block is under reconstruction. But the swearing in ceremony was the same as it was 150 at that time, 4 years ago. And that's how long the Senate has been in place. And so there was pomp and circumstance, but I did get to swear on a Bible that was my family Bible from 1864. So I was able to make it a little bit of my own. But it is an honor, it's a privilege to represent the people of Ontario, to represent you folks, and the people of Canada in the Senate of Canada chamber, in the red chamber. Whoops. So just a little bit about Canada's system of government, just a few basics. We are represented by the monarch. We are a monarchy and represented in Canada by the Governor General, who represents the Queen, in this case, Queen Elizabeth II. There are three branches to our system of government. There's the executive branch, that's the Prime Minister and cabinet members and the departments. There's the judicial branch, which is the Supreme Court and the provincial courts. And then there's the legislative branch, and we're a bicameral system. We have two bicameral being rooms, two rooms. So there's the House of Commons, where members are elected, and then there's the Senate of Canada, where members are appointed by the Governor General on the recommendation of the Prime Minister. And in general terms, we create new laws and change old ones to make them function better, both in that legislative branch of our government. As you well know, members of the House of Commons are elected generally every 3 to 4 years, 2 to 4 years. Senators are, on the other hand, are appointed, and we're appointed to the age of 75. So I'm almost 60, folks. So I have another 15 years, should I choose, if I wish to stay there, until I have to retire on my 75th birthday. And that's like judges. They also have to leave on their 75th birthday. Both MPs and senators are mainly in the business of developing new laws and changing existing laws. And any proposal to create a new law or change an old or an existing law is called a bill. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, I'm sure. And most of these are put forward by the government in the House of Commons. And so usually bills start in the House of Commons, and they have to go through first and second reading. They are moved to committee or referred to a committee of the House of Commons, where they are reviewed and looked at further in committee, and changes may be made at that point. Then they'll come back to the House of Commons, where they'll be voted on for a third reading. And if it's passed, then it goes on to the Senate of Canada. And we go through the same process, first and second reading in the chamber, referred to committee, and then reviewed there in depth, and then back for third reading and possible passing of that bill. If it's passed, it has to pass in both chambers as the similar bill. So if we've made changes, that bill has to go back to the House of Commons to be considered with the changes. And so ping pongs back and forth possibly, or at times, before both chambers agree, and then it is moved to the Governor General for royal assent. And that's when the bill then becomes law. Every law in Canada requires the Senate's approval. Or if a bill is started in the Senate, it has to go the other way and be approved by the House of Commons. As I said earlier, members of the House of Commons are elected, and they all belong to, most of them belong to political parties. That means the decisions they make in the House of Commons are based on what they feel will be acceptable by the party and to the voters that have elected them in their constituency. Because for most of them, let's be honest, they want to be voted back. But in the Senate, it's the issues that matter most. And so being appointed allows us to, we don't have to worry about elections and what our voting constituency might think. So it allows us to give more thought to the breadth and depth of the issue itself, and to make decisions based on the evidence that we hear from and our experiences, without having to worry that our decisions will cost us votes in the next election. So we do look at issues differently than they do in the House of Commons. So just very quickly, there are 105 senators in the country. There are 24 in Ontario, of which I'm one, 24 in Quebec, 30 in Atlantic Canada, and then 24 in Western Canada, and 3 across the territories. But our role has changed from just representing our province to also giving voice to the underrepresented groups like women and visible minorities. And if you look at the faces of the Senate today, you'll see the many, many faces of people in Canada. The Senate was conceived back in 1867 with regional representation in mind. So prior to if we just had the House of Commons at that time, Ontario in 1867 had far more members, and Quebec had the next number, but there were very few in Atlantic Canada, and that made up Canada at the time. And so it was because of the Senate and the equality that the Senate provided that allowed for us to even have a Canada, regardless of the size of the population in each of the provinces. So we're business people, we're scientists, we're immigrants, we're police officers, Indigenous peoples, journalists, teachers, athletes, community leaders, senior civil servants, artists, and even a former OMAFRA staff member from most recently in Wellington County. But our role is to guide Parliament so they act in the best interests of Canadians. We're free to choose a political party if we choose, if we wish. And currently we have 4 groups or parties in the Senate chamber. We have the Conservative Party of Canada, and they are a caucus. They align themselves with the Conservative Party in the House. We also have the Independent Senators Group. That's a capitalized title. And then we also have the Canadian Senators Group, which I belong to, and I'm actually chair of that group. And then we have a 4th group called the Progressive Senate Group. And so wherever we choose to sit or however we choose to be represented, we're free to speak our minds. So in our group, we don't whip our group members. Our members are free to make the decisions that they wish to when we're voting, but we do make sure that everybody understands the issues that we're voting on. And so we do that through a research bureau that we are very proud of, and we think our group is a good one. But however, we all come from a diverse ethnic and socioeconomic and cultural backgrounds, and we reflect and represent the faces of Canada. We have 50% of our senators are women, and so that compares favorably with nearly 20 legislative bodies, nearly every legislative body around the world. And we use our experiences to give Canadians a strong voice in Parliament. We really have 3 roles: legislate, debate, and investigate. And so the legislation piece is when we have the opportunity to speak in the House in the chamber about issues, and put forward legislation or put forward amendments to legislation that has come our way. We can propose bills, we can debate bills, we can amend bills, both in the chamber and in committee. But really our role is to scrutinize legislation that originates in the House for the most part, and sometimes through our own. We do this through open, thorough, and respectful debate. Our debates are far less partisan. There is still some partisan things that go on, but far less partisan than you'll see and have heard in the House of Commons. Because of my background, I look at things from an agricultural and rural lens. That's my background. How will this piece of legislation or this issue affect farmers? How does it affect rural and northern Ontario, rural and northern Canada? And so we can raise questions through question period. We have a chance to ask our government representatives in the chamber questions. And so over the last 2 years almost, my questions have centered on, for the most part, COVID and what is the government doing to support agriculture and rural with respect to COVID? And, while I can't solve the issues as a senator, my role, I believe, is to shine the light on the issues with our government representative in the Senate and with ministers and with others that I talk to about what the government is doing to help Canadians, particularly those in rural communities and the agricultural sector. We do speak to legislation, and I have done that over many times over the last 4 years, and I've made amendments and proposed legislation as well. The other role that we do is in committee, and Muriel McQueen Ferguson, the first female Speaker of the Senate, described the committee work as the heart and soul of the Senate. Senators serving on committees provide crucial oversight about proposed legislation, and we also investigate matters of importance to Canadians. 5 to 12 senators on a committee, and the committee name is the committee issue that we study is in the name of the committee. And so I sit on the Senate Committee on Agriculture and Agroforestry. I'm actually the chair of that committee as of early December. And in this upcoming session, I also sit on the Standing Committee of Rules, Privileges and Rights of Parliament, the Standing Committee on the Library of Parliament, and Social Affairs, Science and Technology, the Standing Committee on Social Affairs, Science and Technology. In these committees, we spend a lot of time talking to Canadians. We'll bring them in as witnesses on the bills that we're studying or on the issues that we're looking at. We also have the opportunity to go out on fact-finding missions. And so this picture just shows us out on the road, looking at a variety of things for one of the studies we were undertaking at the time. It allows us to see things and talk to people who might not be able to get to Ottawa. Senate committees and reports out of the Senate committees are well received and have been for 157 years now. We achieve a great deal in our committees, and when we all come together and we work together and we're respectful. As I said earlier, we don't compete for sound bites in the committee chamber. Unlike our neighbors in the other house, we really do seek to get to the heart of issues in committee. And so, if you're interested in what's happening in the committees, you can find our reports online and follow us that way. So I have spent the last 4 years supporting the agricultural sector, and in the last couple talking about the impacts of COVID. And we've heard about labor issues earlier, not the COVID labor issues, but certainly labor issues in general. And I have raised those issues, Joanne, in the Senate chamber and in times when I'm talking to ministers and other people. I've raised the issue about compensation within the dairy sector, and had the chance to chat with a number of people in the chamber and outside a number of times. But agriculture and agri-food is where my heart is and where I spend my time. So I have talked about the temporary foreign workers program and the national labor issue and the crisis that we're in right now with respect to labor. And that's not the housing issue that Joanne raised. It's the fact that there's a gap. There's the Canadian Association of Human Resource Council, Canadian Association Human Resource Council is undertaking a study with the Canadian Federation of Agriculture. Crispin, you'll know all about that, certainly. And I'm looking forward to that strategy. I've been telling, you don't tell a minister, you suggest to a minister that we needed a labor strategy for agriculture. And I'm delighted that you folks and the folks that represent you are going forward with it. Just a quick example. I met a couple of weeks ago with a national group, and they had significant concerns about labor. And I wrote a letter the next day to 4 ministers. And within 4 days, they had meetings lined up with 3 of those 4 ministers that they didn't have before. I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm just sharing with you that that's the type of thing that I feel is my role. I can help to advocate and shine a light on the issues and speak up and support the agriculture community anytime I get the chance. I'm going to move forward just as we carry on. Certainly, I also speak up for rural communities. And access to reliable, high-speed broadband internet is a big issue. The warden of Lambton County and I had a long conversation about that just a couple of months ago when I was in Lambton County. And you know, for the government to say 96% of Canadians will have access by 2030 is 8 years too late. And we need it now. COVID has caused us to live, work, and play in our homes, just like you're doing tonight. I don't know whether you call that living, working, or playing, but certainly we all need access to reliable, high-speed internet. Other issues that I've raised in the Senate chamber, the idea of transit in rural Ontario and rural communities, and supporting local, and the need to support local in all respects. But certainly highlighted reliable access to reliable high-speed internet as a significant issue. This past summer, I always tell people, if I don't get out and find out what the issues are, I don't know what's going on, and I can't speak knowledgeably in the Senate chamber. So this summer, I spent the time off the Hill and in the fields. And so I was in Southwestern Ontario. I was in Northern Ontario, spent some time with your president, a couple of days with Peggy. I was in Central and Eastern Ontario. I was in Alberta, learning more about the water issues and water, how they move water from the mountains through southern Alberta and into Saskatchewan. So with the opportunity to visit a number of operations across the province and across the country, I've had the chance to, you know, see chicken farms and bison farms and meet with municipal officials and open some fairs and a goat cheese production facility, a winery, local research stations. Certainly lots to see and do there. And every time, whenever I had the chance, I was asking folks what their issues were. So I heard about issues around labor and infrastructure and transportation, irrigation, water, food security, soil health, carbon pricing, as well as issues related to the pandemic in general and the fact of mandatory isolation, the idea of health units across this province having different mandates and saying different things, quarantine costs, all those issues came to the fore. So as a lifelong advocate, it's critical that I continue to learn about agriculture. And so for that, I would just say that if you have an issue that you think like Black can't do anything about it, but he should know about it, send me an email, send my office an email and just say, Rob, we think you should know about this issue. And that's the only way I can get up to speed on the issue and learn more about it and potentially raise it in the chamber if necessary. Other issues that I've talked about over time, we've talked about labor, succession planning, dealing with engaging youth, the whole issue of export markets and remaining competitive, innovation, changing technology, focusing on research and development, and the whole issue of climate change. And I really do think that agriculture can be a driver around climate change and dealing with Canada's climate change issues. One of those areas is dealing with soil health. And so the last Senate soil study was called Soil at Risk, Canada's Eroding Future. This was done in 1984, or finished in 1984. This is the most requested study ever in the Senate of Canada, ever. All committees combined, the most requested study. It's time we did that again. And so to that end, I have put forward at the Agriculture and Forestry Committee the idea of undertaking a new soil health study. We just got into play before Christmas. We've had our some break time here over Christmas and into the new year with COVID, et cetera. But it is my hope that early when we get back in the next few weeks, we will agree to undertake a new soil study, looking at the health of soils in Canada. And I think improving soils in Canada is not a one-size-fits-all endeavor. And so we do need to look at it regionally and hear from people, economists, academics, you folks yourselves, about what works and what doesn't across this country. I think it needs to be overarching and look at what soil health is And secondly, why it's important to Canadians. I dare say the general population doesn't know anything about this study. I think this next one, because of Crispin's comments about losing 175 acres a day, we can't lose too many we can't have many days before we're not going to have enough soil to feed our country, let alone the world. Crispin, thanks for raising the Barton report. Again, that's something that I think we've lost in Ottawa. We don't hear about it anymore. And so I have raised it in the Senate chamber and asked questions about it with ministers in the very recent past, because we need to keep that in mind. But soil is important to me. And so I think I think we need to look at that and move forward accordingly. I am coming down to the end. I just wanted to share with you things that I've learned through my working career, working with people like Gabe Ferguson and Kevin Marriott and others, but also in the last 4 years as a senator. And so I think it's important never to say no to opportunities. At the same time, it's okay to make mistakes, because we learn from those opportunities and the mistakes we make. People and community networks are important, whether it's this Lambton Federation of Agriculture, whether it's your connection to OFA or CFA, or your local network group that you might belong to, or management group. Networks make a difference. For me, mentors make a difference as well. And I wholeheartedly think mentors have helped me to get where I am today. I think it's important to use the resources and supports provided to you. So in my case, since I've been a senator, I have the resource of the Parliament of Canada, the Library of Parliament in Canada, that we make use of a lot. And so, had I not known about Lambton County, I could have called up the Library of Parliament and said, give me a 2-pager on OFA, or Lambton Federation of Agriculture, and I would have got that. I've got a wonderful team in Ottawa that works with me. They don't work for me. We work as a team together. And so it's important to use those resources and the supports that are provided to you. I know I do. And that's been something I've had to learn. When I was at the Rural Ontario Institute, we're all chief cooks and bottle washers. Gabe, you know that. If the toilet needs to be cleaned and it's not Saturday when the cleaner comes in, it's one of us that does it, right? But I think it's important to use the resources and supports that surround you. And you each know those reports. It's important to treat everyone with respect. Quick story, my second day as a senator, I went out for lunch with my temporary colleague at the time. We went to the cafeteria in Center Block. You grab a tray, you go along the line, you take your food, go out and sit and eat, and then you put the dirty dishes and tray on a trolley, which goes back into the kitchen. I picked up her tray and mine and put it on the trolley, and Maria Jose said, Senator, you don't ever have to do that again. Others will do that for you. Well, no thanks. That's my job. And I think it's important to treat everybody with respect. And so if I've used that tray, it's my job to put it on there, and I'm happy to take hers as well, right? It's important to say and feel thanks often. When one door closes, another one is likely to open. In the fall of 2017, Gabe may or may not know this, but I had the opportunity to apply for a new job, leaving the Rural Ontario Institute. 3 interviews, 2 PowerPoint presentations, face-to-face interviews at the time. I came up second in that job interview and was not successful. It would have taken me in a totally different direction. But within 3 months, I had a brand new job that I am thrilled about. And I hope I'm doing what you want me to do. I think it's important not to be afraid and dig in and get your hands dirty. Back to the whole thing, it's the people that matter most. It's the people around this table at Lambton Federation of Agriculture. It's the people in my office. It's my Senate family, but it's also the ALP family and other OFA family as well. So it's the people that matter most. The Senate is your Senate. So if you're ever in Ottawa and I happen to be there, I'd be delighted to have a coffee with you, show you around. This is post-COVID, obviously, but I have taken individuals and groups through the Senate chamber. We've met at the Flame, and this is a school group that I did eventually take them down to the Senate chamber. But I'm delighted to have friends and family that come and visit as well on occasion. My day begins when I'm in Ottawa. My day begins around 7. I'm in the office shortly after 7, if not before. And I will get back to my room between 8 and 10 at night. And so in that time, we sit Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. In that time, we're meeting with staff, we're meeting on committees that I sit on, we're meeting with stakeholders like CFA and many other organizations. I'm meeting with school groups and talking to school groups, sitting as well in the chamber Tuesday afternoon and evening, Wednesday afternoon, and Thursday afternoon and evening. And when we sit into an evening, we can sit as late as 12 o'clock, as midnight. We have to adjourn at 12 o'clock, unlike the other place. And by the way, that's what we do not refer to the House of Commons in the Senate chamber. We refer to it as the other place. So for about 2 weeks, in my early learning days, that high learning curve, my colleagues were referring to this other place, and I had no idea where the other place was, what they were referring. It's the House of Commons. We just don't say those words in the Senate chamber. Don't know why. You can stay connected. That's my email address. Happy to hear from you. If you're in Ottawa, please, please, please come for a visit if I'm around, and happy to show you around or just talk. But I do appreciate the opportunity and happy to answer questions if you've got any. And I know, Gary, that we're over time, but I'm happy to answer questions. I'll stay on as long as you want. Thank you. I'll stop sharing.